The American Psychological Association reports that money is the top cause of stress in the United States. Today, we're going to look at how managing your finances is a form of self-care and give you 5 ways to begin budgeting in order to control your financial situation today. My name is Lindsay and I run the blog The Well-Rounded Teacher, where I give you tips, tricks, and ideas on living a more balanced lifestyle. If you are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon so that you never miss another video from me. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming today. I hope that you enjoy the video and remember to click like if you get value from today's conversation. Digging straight into it, how is managing your finances a form of self-care? If we look at one of the definitions of self-care, the definition is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. If it's true, which I believe that it is, that money is the top stressor in the United States, it only makes sense then that managing your money would be a form of self-care because you're trying to reduce some of that stress. I know that for myself, being able to be in control of my money has made a huge difference for me and allows me to be able to feel like I am telling my money where to go rather than having it just disappear without any thought whatsoever. So this is just a basic overview. I do encourage you to read the book, The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, if you want more in-depth ideas, and he really goes into a lot of good financial principles. There are definitely other financial gurus out there, but a lot of my information and my experience comes from reading his book and experiencing that and applying it to my own life. That's kind of the method, I guess you could say, that I tend to follow. When I'm talking with people, I find that there are 2 groups of people, and one of them really feels like they are so far into debt, they have so much student loan and credit card debt that they're never going to be able to get control of that and get out of that situation. And so they say, I don't even care. I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. Meanwhile, they're feeling that stress and having the money fights at home and are really dealing with the stress that comes from not managing their money. And then on the other side, there are people who are ready to begin the journey towards financial freedom. And so they're just looking to seek out knowledge and make some moves that are going to help them to grow in that area. Let's take a look today at 5 basics to get started with budgeting. Number 1 is to track your expenses. If you have never done this before, just know that it can be a little bit of an eye-opener as you're trying to see where has all your money been going. And in the age of credit cards and debit cards, it is a lot easier to track our money. Being able to go back over the past month and see what have I purchased, where have I spent my money, and putting that information into categories. You want to have your utilities in a category and food in a category. Maybe if you're a frequent attender of restaurants, you might want to have restaurants as a separate category. So you really want to categorize everything and track those expenses to the best of your ability to see where did your money go last month in order to make a plan for where you want your money to go during the next month. Step number 1, track expenses. Step number 2 is to compare your expenses to your income. Ideally, we want to have our income greater than our expenses. That's how we can get ahead with being able to pay down debt and move forward financially speaking. However, that might not be the case. So see where you're at. How much money did you spend last month that was maybe over the amount that you brought in? Or how much did you have extra that you can put towards intentionally moving forward with your financial goals? So step number 2, compare your expenses to your income. Step number 3 is to make some cuts in order to save money. One of the things that Dave Ramsey talks about is saving for your first $1,000 in your emergency fund. So he puts that ahead of paying down debt because inevitably, if you're trying to hustle and pay off debts, the refrigerator breaks or the washer breaks or the car breaks down, something is going to happen And if you don't have a little bit of money set aside in your emergency fund, you're going to end up just charging that again or not knowing how to pay for it, and that's going to cause a lot of problems. Definitely look at where you can make some cuts in order to save for that first $1,000. Maybe getting a different cell phone bill, you can save a few dollars there or more depending on where you live. Maybe taking a look at your TV. Do you have a cable bill? Do you have an internet bill? Is there a different plan that you could get where you could save some money, or a different service provider that could save you some money in one of those areas? Just taking a look at some of those things. Maybe you were alarmed by the amount of money that you've spent at restaurants. You want to commit to spending less money at restaurants and maybe cooking at home a little bit more during the next month. So think about where you could make some cuts and come up with some extra money to go towards your budget. Step number 3 is to make some cuts in your spending. Step number 4 is to go ahead and create your budget. So you want to give a line item to each thing. So your housing, you have a line item for utilities, one for your vehicle, one for food, one for clothing. Whatever it is that you're spending money on, you want to have a category and a line item for that spending. Then you want to think about how are you going to track your spending throughout the course of the month. One of the things, again, that Dave Ramsey recommends is using cash and the envelope system. And this is how I got started with my budget, was putting my cash into the envelope, into the category, and then spending from there. I do think that it is very visual when you have cash in the envelope, and I think that there is a different kind of physical response that you get from having to pull out those dollar bills and hand them over to the clerk versus just swiping your card. If you've never considered doing something like that before, even if you don't do it for the whole time, I would recommend trying it out at least for the first couple of months, just so that you can get a better sense of that physical response of spending money. If you are going to go ahead and continue on using your debit card, then think about how you're going to track expenses. Are you going to write it in a notebook? Are you going to use some type of a financial app such as Everyday Dollar or something like that where you can track your spending in that way? How are you going to do it? Because you really want to make sure that you're not going over your budget as you're trying to maneuver things. Step number 4, create your budget and your tracking system. How are you going to track that? And then step number 5 is to refine your budget. It is not going to be perfect the first time. In fact, you might need a few months to kind of get into the groove and really get a well-oiled budget that is working for you, is working for your family, that you can live with. And this is okay. Again, I want you to remember that you are taking steps towards improving your financial situation, and don't be upset with yourself because you have to make some adjustments. Look at it from the positive side of look at the steps that you are taking and how this is really going to change your life in the long run. And so be encouraged in that and continue to take those steps and move forward, and just be thankful for the progress that you're making along the way. As I already stated, there is a lot more that goes into finances, and I'm just sharing a little bit of some of the things that have worked for me and have been really helpful. And I hope that this is an encouragement to you today, and that you will feel inspired to get started and do some budgeting and get your finances under control. So it is definitely a form of self-care. You're going to be helping to reduce that stress and put yourself into a better situation in the months to come. If you have something that you would like to share down in the comments, if you have an idea for cutting expenses or maybe a way for creating your budget a little quicker, please share that in the comments, and I would love to hear from you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone.